Hello. Hello. I am excited. Today we got sun here in the Bay Area, which was nice, a nice change. So I'm not in a sweater for the first time in a couple of weeks. But we got a lot of serious rain over the past few weeks. So it was nice to have a dry day. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Tonight it is the 17th of January, and I am here live on both YouTube and Facebook. So you can ask questions from either location and I'll be able to see them. But in case some of you get confused why I'm answering questions you don't see on the stream, it's because they're probably in the place you are not coming in because they feed in together. So today I made frittatas and hello and welcome. I made frittatas and I wanted to show you so this is a standard cupcake size cup. I got these jumbo sized ones. So see the difference. See the difference. How do you see the difference? They're like they clash with my shirt. Where's the camera? This is a spatial test. Anyway, they're very different sizes. You can see. And so I love these jumbo ones because they're twice as big. And this is for like a really decadent little cupcake. But when you're making something like a frittata or an egg muffin or something a little more macro friendly, I want a more reasonable serving size. So if you haven't gotten some of these extra large muffin containers, they're totally worth it. I mean, they're jumbo. They're a much better size. I'm going to put them over here. Anyway, so next time I won't wear the ones that blend in with my shirt. Hey, Platte River Keto, getting their workout. Wow, so that is a lot of snow. I'm glad I don't have to deal with snow for sure. I am a bit of a wuss about cold and snow and things like that. I was saying, so I'm from San Francisco, well, the San Francisco area, from across the bay from San Francisco. And when it's cold here, it's like this nagging chill where you need a blankie. It's sort of, I have described it like there's someone walking around behind you, dripping cold water down your neck occasionally, and you're like, well, you just can't be warm enough. And but then I moved to New York for a while, and I was like, oh, this cold is like someone is beating me with chains. Like it's just like those like just you're just like it's like violent the cold, and I'm like, this is different than just being chilly. Anyway, so I got these extra large cups. I think I got them at Sur La Table, which is a cooking store, but I've seen them on Amazon. So just look for jumbo sized cupcake holders, and you should be able to find ones that are bigger. This is a standard size, this jumbo. And I just use these. I mean, I use these too. I got rid of everything but these silicone muffin cups because you can turn them inside out to clean them. They're great. And like you just stack them and they take up like no room at all. So storage is super easy. I was always suffering, those metal ones from back in my childhood. And like anything with egg, or if you didn't grease it enough, it would get stuck in there and then you have to like scrape it out with your finger. It's like so irritating. So I finally got rid of all those and I went just to silicone for muffins, and much easier. Love these, but I think I'll look. Let me see. I will Google right now and see if they have them. Jumbo muffin silicone. There we go. Jumbo muffin silicone cups. They indeed have them. They have lots of them. So I would just go look at jumbo and make sure, they're what size they are. They're going to be bigger than the standard. So that's what I would do. So, so for this size, I will often just make a frittata, and it'll cook a little faster, and then it's pre-portioned to make them in this size, rather than making a large dish of them. So that makes life easy. Rosemary, says, do you use the larger cups with a 2-egg frittata recipe? You could make a single 2-egg frittata in this. Yeah, you could. I usually make more, but yeah, you absolutely could make a single serving frittata in one of these guys. But I would probably you could probably make a 3-egg frittata in here. So unless you add a lot of stuff. If you add a lot of stuff, like put a lot of meat and veggies and then add 2 eggs to it, you'd be good. Um, Good morning, Karen from Indonesia. Good evening, everyone else. Terry says, question, if someone wants to try adding fruit but nervous about the carbs, where to start? Good question. So when I reintroduced fruit into my diet, I started by doing things like adding a quarter of an apple to a salad, um, having a few extra berries on some yogurt, right? So I just started with not a whole apple, right? And go incrementally. So yeah, the very first thing I started to do when I said let's see what, like, bump up my carbs a little bit with some whole foods. I love a little apple in a salad or a little pear in a salad or something like that. So I would just add, like, literally a quarter, an eighth, just a few slices. Or if I was having some cheese, like, when you sometimes you go out for cheese. Anybody else go out for cheese? You go out, you get a cheese board. I wouldn't have the crackers, but sometimes there'd be like a few pieces of fruit on the tray, and I might let myself have a few pieces, right? So you just start, I would start small, and just go that way. Or, like, they sell mandarin oranges that are like this big as opposed to like giant oranges. Get some of the mandarin oranges and have one. Am I saying that everyone needs to have fruit? I am not, in case anyone is confused. But Terry, either she or somebody she knows, wants to see how they do with a little bit of fruit. And I would say start small. Don't go big kahuna. Don't order a giant fruit salad. Just try adding a little bit and seeing, is this of benefit to me? Is this something that makes my life easier, more enjoyable? Am I getting any negative repercussions? Am I feeling like more carb cravings because of it, or something that feels manageable, in which case, full speed ahead. And then just kind of incrementally bump your way up, um, if you want. So Terry says, I bought some raspberry. Oh, hold on. Marlene, we only started like 5 minutes ago or 7 minutes ago, but yes, it will, you can rewatch it later. Terry says, I bought some raspberries and blueberries today, wanting to test it, but afraid of cravings or metabolic issues. So yeah, that advice, I would say, don't a lot of people would say no naked fruit, right? No naked carbs. So eat it with a meal, eat it in a meal, eat it with, so like, I often want to put it, my letters today are just "Woo." I often want to put, like, some blueberries or raspberries on some yogurt, and that is delicious. And so I would do that. And then I would see if that's not your normal pattern. Do I seem to be hungrier? Are my cravings more intense than usual? What is the effect of doing this change in behavior? And if there is no effect, then good to go, right? If you do find that you're experiencing more cravings, I would get curious about it. Why is it that I'm experiencing more cravings? Am I truly hungrier? Or am I just like mentally, feeling like I've opened the barn door and now I'm going to go charging, right? So, yeah, there you go. The good news is, once we undergo a health change, right? You've lost, I think, 170 pounds, which is gonna mean that you are a lot more metabolically healthy than you used to be. Your fat cells are smaller. They've given up a lot of their fat storage. That allows you to be a much more metabolically healthy person. And therefore, you should have more flexibility with a bit of fruit if you want to do that, or a bit more Brussels sprouts if you want to do that. And then you just have to, pay attention to the fact that, are these things supporting me in my continued efforts to maintain this weight loss, or are they making it more challenging for me to maintain this weight loss? Jill says, I love blueberry muffins and pancakes since keto recipes still lose and they don't affect her. So, yeah. So, just what, 50 grams of fruit is about 2 ounces. So that's a very small amount. Yeah, I think you should be A-okay. How were they, Terry? Sorry, guys, I'm super thirsty. I've been talking all afternoon. I recorded a how I eat in a day video today that I have to edit together, but that will be coming out in the next few days. It's always so weird to me because I always really want to like be like, oh, and I'll do this recipe and I'll do that recipe. And I was like, I really should just show them how I eat, Kim. Like, don't have to always wear the nice dress. I did put it on nice plates, I will say. I don't own any paper plates though. I grew up in a family where we only did paper plates for like barbecues and like giant parties where we didn't have enough plates for everyone coming, which would be almost impossible in my mother's house because my mother collects plates. But so when I got into the keto communities and on like YouTube's what I eat in a day and everything like that, I was very confused by the use of paper plates. I'm like, how do people have like I just don't have them. And I grew up in a house with we would have to go and buy paper plates for an event. So I'm always and it just took me a while to realize, oh, not everyone's mom is my mom who would shoot me if I did. But then again, not everyone's mom is an interior designer that collects plates. So we have a lot of plates. Anyway, um, Terry said, now you all think I'm snooty, right? I do not judge. I was simply confused by the culture of paper plate use. Um, Terry says they were very good and I didn't have the feeling I get when I ate unhealthy processed foods and they were just refreshing and tasty. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge difference between a handful of blueberries and a handful of chocolate chip cookies, right? Like, there's no judgment, there's no like good and bad, but from a metabolic perspective, and then there's going to be a resulting like how I feel digestively and energetically, it's going to be different if you are eating whole foods versus even high carb whole foods versus um, junk food. Very different, very different. And so, one of the things to guard against is to say, you know, yeah, just because I opened the door to berries, I have not opened the door to Chips Ahoy, right? Right. So it might be my age. Is it my are we old ladies? I don't know. I just grew up in a house where it was not normal behavior. Like they existed, but it was not like regular behavior, I should say, to use paper plates. And so just when I saw people using them, I was always confused. Like, did they just have a party? Like, why do they have these in their how do they have these in their house? It was a weird thing where I was like, oh, right. People could buy them when they weren't having a party. It just yeah, anyway. Weird thoughts of mine. Um, oh, that's smart. Doxy Gal says I use paper plates in the microwave to absorb pepperoni oil. I could see that. They can be absorbent, but some of them aren't, like the ones that are glossy. I don't think that would absorb anything. Anyway, you're welcome, Terry. Happy to help. I know, but you right? I'm always whenever I share my thoughts on something, I'm like, am I being elitist? Is that a thing? Like, is it? I'm like, I'm not. I don't mean to be throwing shade on anyone. It's just different than I grew up, and it's just the way. Anyway, I'm an anxious person, and I never want to offend anyone. And then I have thoughts, and then I say them because I'm also a person without much of a filter. And then I'm like, oh no, I've offended someone, and that is how I get to live my life in a cycle of endless anxiety. It's just perfect the way it is, apparently. Anyway, um, what else is going on? So I'm going to low carb Denver in just under 6 weeks, I think, 6-ish weeks. So low carb Denver is an event in Denver. That wasn't clear. It's going to be super fun. It's primarily actually was started as a conference for doctors who were um who were interested in low carb. So it's an event where doctors, nurses and pharmacists can get credit. So, do you guys know this, that if you're a medical practitioner, to keep your license up, um, you need to have a certain amount of continuing education. And in this so there are certain conferences that count as continuing education, and so this conference does. So it's a level of education that the boards have determined, is very high. So that's awesome. So it started as a conference sort of for doctors and medical practitioners to help other doctors and medical practitioners get smarter about um, low carb issues and how keto can help people and all that kind of stuff. It's put on by Dr. Jeffrey Gerber. And then it just got to be like a really popular place. It's actually a little trivia for those of you that love Dr. Ben Bickman. It's kind of where he got famous. So he came and taught his first like non-academic conference was at Low Carb Denver. Actually, that year it was in Breckenridge, so it's called Low Carb Breckenridge, but it's the same conference. And so it's this great. So his first talk, and he got like such great response that then he kind of went on to become a little darling of the low carb world. But it's a great conference. And so, and it's become more open to like them. It's open to the mainstream. Like anyone can come that buys a ticket. It's not limited to just doctors. But because sometimes I think if you're coming to a keto or low carb conference and it's your first one, you might feel anxious or overwhelmed with the information. It's a lot, like 3 full days of talks about ketones and beta hydroxybutyrate and lipob and all that, pathways and whatever. It can maybe be a little bit overwhelming, or you might have anxiety about it. Not everybody, but some people might. I did my first couple conferences. So I'm going to be hosting at the conference during I'm 3 breakout sessions, one a day, where we get a chance to talk about those things. So it's specifically for non-medical providers. So it's for the normies, the average folk, civilians, to talk about like anything they're dealing with, like cognitive dissonance, like, well, but this guy said that and this one said that, and how do I reconcile that these two speakers who were invited to speak at the same conference disagree with each other, and would they just get their facts straight, and what's the story, right? Like those kinds of thoughts. And so we'll have a discussion group about that kind of thing. So we're going to have, I just talked to them, we're going to set that up. So I'm going to run that, and Siobhan Huggins is going to come and be part of it. Ken Berry is going to come and be part of it. Maybe Dave Feldman, if he can get the time, is going to come. So we're going to have some good people coming, and I'm going to get to host a little bit of a breakout session for people. So that'll be super fun. So if you needed a reason to come, there you go. Anyway, but that's happening. I think it's the 23rd of February-ish for 3 days. All right. I'm getting approved. People are okay with my elitist values about paper plates so far. And Platte River, Karen, if you were living in a fifth wheel with 6 people, I totally would get that. And Platte River Keto says, I'm bummed that low carb. Oh, are you you're an accountant? Uh-huh. Well, can you take a few days? I don't know what to tell you. Sorry about that. Living in Oz loves Ben Bickman. He is awesome. Hey, Bob. Um, Jill says, I want to know how to get the energy everyone talks about. Totally understand. Yeah, I mean, that sort of like ketone burst that people talk about on keto, it can really vary. So there are a couple of things. Some people say they only get it when their ketones are above 1.0 millimolar of beta hydroxybutyrate. So for some people, being in deeper levels of ketosis might spark more energy. The second one is that some people only really get it if they, start. It's like it's incremental. For some, it's not like taking speed, right? Like it's not like, I've never done cocaine, but it's not like you suddenly got like a hit of cocaine. I swear I've never done. I am a total straight edge person, but like at least see it in the movies where they're like all zippy all of a sudden, or I don't know, whatever drug. Speed is all I can think of. Speed sounds speedy, but why am I talking about things I don't understand? I don't know. Um, but that like, um, I'm naturally a slug-like person. Like I would like to recline all the time. And even once I started keto, I still was a naturally lazy person. And but like I had what did I notice? When I went keto, I noticed I no longer wanted to nap. So that was a big boost in energy. I used to constantly want to nap. And now it would be challenging for me to nap most of the time. And so that is a big boost in energy from what I used to feel for sure. But one of the things I notice is for some people, it's like more incremental, right? So, oh, I like feel like 25% more energetic and less foggy and pulled down than I used to. So then you're like, okay, well, now I feel like I can go out and take walks and be more active. And then you get a little more active. And then actually, that does bring a little more energy because being more active with your body actually increases your energy level, right? And so then it's like, and then from there you got to look, and so it's more incremental. Not everyone experiences the like annoying levels of exuberance. So I'll just say it that way. So not, yeah, you say I do notice less slump after lunch at work, right? I used to be like, I am just, I want to put my head down on my desk and just close my eyes and yeah, yeah. And I don't really feel that way anymore. Now I'd like to lay down on the sofa and read a book for sure, but that's just because that's how I like to do things. um, Jill says, well, there you go. I need to get active and quit lazy. Yeah, so start small. So go for a 15-minute walk every day. If you're not at that level yet, do that. Add a 15-minute walk every day at whatever pace feels good to you. And then make it a little longer and then make it a little more. And sometimes that just will start to like ramp up your system. They found some very interesting things going from completely sedentary, just like getting up and down around your house, whatever, to like adding a 15-minute walk every day, that like reduces your chances of dying like 25%. It like is a huge boost in longevity and mortality issues. So, from there, you've got, you can keep going and getting better, but even just getting a little more active can be amazing for you. It also helps to regulate hunger. So they've studied this and found that adding a little more activity, so going for a couple walks a day, it actually it now it's I'm not talking about like all out effort, like drenched with sweat, but being more generally active, it actually upregulates hunger hormone, well, satiety hormones, I mean. So your hunger levels tend to actually be lower and better managed when you're a more active person. So that's also a win for those of us that feel like we want to eat more than we should. Docs and Gal says, have any suggestions for increasing ketones? Already eat less than 20 carbs a day. Ketones pretty much around zero point 0.7. All right, hold on. So, ways to increase ketones. The first thing I will say is that I know you've been in ketosis for a long time. I know you've been keto for a long time because I remember you. Um, Over time, sometimes levels will just settle, right? And so, my question for you, Docs and Gal, is what are you looking to gain out of increased ketones? Um, if you're trying to increase ketones for a particular reason, so what are some ways that we can increase ketones? Well, you can add MCT oil to your diet. MCT oil, medium chain tri. By the way, I'm just telling Docs and Gal here some ways to increase ketones. I am not saying that there's a good reason to do this unless there's a good reason to do this, right? So just want to be clear about that. So using MCT oil or eating foods that include more MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, will increase ketones because medium chain triglycerides um, bypass the liver for processing. And I'm sorry, bypass certain parts of our digestion and go directly to the liver. They don't bypass it. They they go directly to the liver where they're made into ketones without having to do as much other stuff. So instead of like, it's like when we eat food, it normally has to be digested and then taken apart, and the fats go to chylomicrons, which get transported, and then they eventually go to the liver. And so it's like you leave the house in the morning, and you got to run like five different errands before you can have lunch. Whereas MCTs, they go directly to lunch. They go directly to the liver. They're available to be converted into ketones right away. And so adding some MCT oil can have that effect of a more rapid, higher level of ketones. Now, that's only going to increase your ketone level while that MCT oil is active in your body. But you can try that and see what happens. So get some MCT oil, put it in coffee or tea, or you can just take a spoonful of it, and it's pretty much tasteless. You can use it as salad dressing. You cannot cook with it. It's not supposed to get hotter than like how hot it would get putting it in a warm beverage. It breaks it down. But you can see if that has a benefit to your brain power is what you say you're looking for. But yes, to be aware, don't start with multiple tablespoons of that because for a lot of people it can cause disaster pants. So work your way up. Start with a teaspoon if you don't use it regularly, and then go to a 2 teaspoons, then three, which is a tablespoon in the US anyway. And so there you go. If you don't tolerate it digestively, though, that is something to look at. Although I would say if you eat it with food, you might tolerate it better than drinking it. Sometimes that makes a difference. Fiber with it might help with the digestive issues. So that is one way. Another way, which I tend not to suggest, but if you, yeah, I'm not going to suggest the ones that I tend not to suggest, but eating more of a moderate level of protein. So making sure you're getting enough protein. You don't want to undereat on protein at all, but getting switching a few of your calories from protein to fat if you're getting, but you need to stay above the limit, right? Then that can sometimes help as well for some people to raise their ketones. That's a dangerous game to play too close to the line though, because I don't want you to undereat protein. Moonglow says, "Hi Kim, I'm eating a heavy meat diet, but not really straight carnivore. I'm trying to up my fat content. Would having an avocado many days along with some butter and beef fat be okay, do you think?" So I would ask Moonglow, what are you doing why are you looking to up your fat content? Are you under eating? Are your calories too low? Are you having cognitive issues? What's your desire for eating more fat? Obviously, we should be eating plenty of fat. We don't want to under eat fat. Fat is our best energy source if we're carnivore or keto, but um, it's not necessarily the right move for all goals. So I guess my question, I don't have any problem with avocado. I don't have any problem with butter. I don't have any problem with beef fat. I'm just curious what you're aiming for. There are like these things, the pendulum swings back and forth in the keto world, right? When I first found keto, it was very much about high fat. And then the pendulum swung to higher protein. And now it seems to be swinging back to people wanting to know more about high fat. And I think, making sure you're getting plenty of fat is important. But what plenty of fat is will vary from person to person, and so I'm always very curious what the basis is for wanting to make sure your ways to get more fat. Um, I certainly support. Like I have a lot of friends who do very well on high fat carnivore, and the way that they go about that is they eat a lot of butter and they eat higher fat cuts of meat. Um, and if you're someone that eats avocado, then yes, avocado has a nice effect of having adding more fat to your diet. So I think all of those are perfectly reasonable fat choices, but I'm also curious what your what your desire is, because if you're already eating butter and beef fat and you're choosing, and you're choosing high fat cuts of meat, if you're doing that already, you're already at probably like 80 to 85% fat. So I'm just looking into asking the why. Unfortunately, it's really hard for me to answer questions without asking a question back. Because we're not all the same. So I kind of need to know the answers to know how to phrase a question. All right, what else is going on in the world? Oh, if you're tuning in via YouTube, please, if you could like the stream, that would be awesome support for me, because the more likes, the more comments, the better the algorithm seems to like me. And on Facebook, if you're already following me, fabulous. If you could also like emoji me, don't angry emoji me. That always makes me feel bad. But positive emojis. Um, but but now all the trolls know how to affect me, as if that was a secret. Um, and if you're not already a follow would be awesome. I'm terrible at remembering to say these things, so I'm saying them right now. All right. Moonglow says wanting to lose more weight. I'm gonna say Moonglow, like, I'm sure there are people that would help you with that. I tend to think that this is not a great way to lose more weight. Thank you, Jack. For I would say there are some people when they up the fat and their body gets in a better hormonal profile, they get into better health. Some things can definitely upregulate there. But I would say, based on my experience with clients, a good 75% of people or more, when they up the fat and lower the protein, the weight they lose is not body fat. It tends to be more, if they do lose more weight, it tends to be a higher percentage of muscle mass, which is the thing we don't want to lose. And so I tend to not think a higher fat, lower protein approach is beneficial for most people, especially if you're nearing menopause, when fixing the muscle somebody loses is more challenging. That being said, if you're getting enough protein, then you're getting enough protein. You don't have to eat a high protein diet to lose weight, but it's essential that we don't dip below uh, basic amounts of protein that we need to maintain proper stores of lean muscle mass, of lean mass, which includes muscle mass. And so I would put that at 1.2 grams per kilogram of reference body weight for most people. So how do you do that? Well, we can convert that into pounds. So 1.2 divided by 2.2. So I would make sure that I wasn't getting less than about 0.55 or zero point 0.6 grams of protein per pound of reference body weight. Reference body weight, you can just think of as goal or target weight. So if your goal or target weight is 150 pounds, you want to make sure you're getting 85 to 90 grams of um, protein. So, I mean, I know that some people are getting real popular again, and it used to be this way, so I'm familiar. I've been through this war before. The high fat versus high protein. I just think choking down butter, it, when it doesn't appeal to you, like it doesn't feel good, it doesn't taste good. It's an indicator from your body that it might not be the right approach, and that yeah. So while some people do well on higher fat, absolutely, my friend Siobhan Huggins is absolutely one of these people. She gleefully eats butter, right? So like, she'll have a piece of meat spread with butter and eat it, and it tastes good to her and it feels good for her. because her body is thriving on a higher fat diet. If you're not, if it feels not good to you, I think that tends to be an indicator that it might not be the right approach. But I always say you're welcome. I think it's great for people to try things for 30 days and see what their body does. So, making sure you're getting enough minimal protein for sure, or because that it's like you won't feel that until it's too late to fix. Um, but as long as you're getting minimally okay amounts of protein, then I would say from there, try the higher fat and see how you feel, see what your weight does, see how you function. But if you're looking for ways to up the fat, I would say adding more butter, eating higher fat meats. If you don't like globby fat, right? Look for steaks and meats that have that more of the marbling where the fat is more mixed in. It's not just like chunks of fat. If that grosses you out, I like it, but if that grosses you out, then like skirt steak where it's more like grains in the meat, it's more incorporated into the meat. Those can be easier to eat for a lot of people. And then, maybe if you don't like things like you don't like eating that much butter, but maybe you do like hollandaise sauce, which is like made with butter, but it has a different flavor profile. So there can be some other ways to get that in. I know that Siobhan was a big fan for a while of eating a lot of cream cheese instead of butter. She was doing cream cheese with her meals. So, that's another higher fat approach. So, one, I would say anything's worth a 30-day experiment. Give it a try and see how your body responds. But I honestly, ultimately have come to the belief that you shouldn't feel disgusted by your diet. So if you're like, this much butter is making me feel sick, I don't love the way this feels, um, and I'm not, am I losing the weight? Am I losing the weight because I'm now under eating? Am I losing the weight because my body is responding well to this? Taking it on as an experiment is, I think, a great thing to do. But again, I would say, keep your eyes open and keep your eyes on the prize and make sure that you're heading towards your goals, not away from your goals, for sure. And yeah, and then finding the higher fat meats that you actually and like my body, like I do best on high protein, moderate fat. So I eat much more protein than I eat fat these days. I feel better. I lose weight better. Everything works better. But like my friend Siobhan, she does better on more fat than protein. And when I've talked to do you guys know Amber O'Hearn? She's like one of the first carnivores. Like uh before Sean Baker was ever carnivore, there was Amber who did has done carnivore um a long time, and she, her limit is even higher than what I say is minimum. I think when I say minimum, I'm like, I'm not comfortable with it, but it's at least minimum. So for even Amber, who really supports this higher fat carnivore approach, she still has a minimum amount of protein. And for her, it's around that like 1.5 grams per kilogram of reference body weight. And so I worry about some of the people, some of the influencers out there in the world giving advice these days who are putting people's protein amounts much below that. I just think there's going to be some long-term damage, not to everybody, because there's some personal variability. Some people can survive well. Some people can survive well on a vegan diet, right? So some people can survive well on a lower protein diet, but the average person, I think there will be long-term repercussions for eating very low amounts of protein. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone right now. I honestly don't know who's saying this. I just hear, well, somebody said this and somebody said that. So somebody said a lot of things. So again, please don't think I'm attacking any person at all. Um, because I don't know who to attack, and I have no right to do so. We just all have different opinions. But I worry about you guys. I worry about people under eating protein. Again, that's not to mean that you can't eat more fat than protein, but I worry about you. There's just a absolute minimum of protein for each person. When you drop below it, you're going to get in trouble. Um, Dennis, Siobhan has become a teeny waif, cute and very teeny. I would say and very teeny, not but very teeny. She is teeny tiny. She is. She is. She fits like under my armpit. She's teeny tiny, and she's got this littlest waist ever. She's gotten very, very petite. She and I are good friends. We get. I actually just talked to her today for 5 minutes. I had to go, but we checked in. Lenore said, "I'm struggling to get in 90 grams of protein." Nisha said, "Eat more meals, but I'm not hungry." Cody, can other people hear me? Just let me know in the comments. Say thumbs up if you can hear me, guys, so that I know if other people, if I don't get any thumbs up, I'll know nobody can hear me. Lenore says, but I'll keep talking. Lenore says, "I'm struggling to get in the 90 grams of protein." Nisha said to eat more meals. Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. So I'm just going to make a little note to Cody. Oops. All right, let's see. Woo. Now I can't turn this off. Cody. All right, can someone type in the comments to Cody? Just say to Cody, uh, turn his mess with his volume, right? Because it's on their end. Okay, I got the thumbs up there. I got a comment that somebody couldn't hear me, and I just talk amongst yourselves. So back to Lenore. So, okay, first thing I'll say is that one of the things that happens when we chronically undereat is our hunger signals often go down, right? I'm not saying you're anorexic, but anorexics don't feel hungry very much. It's just like we've trained ourselves not to be hungry. So, the first thing I would say is you kind of just have to do it. You just have to do it. So, if you're currently eating 2 meals a day, go to 3 meals a day. And they don't have to be huge meals. So the second thing is when I started to increase my protein, I had to lower my fat or I was too full. So that just led me down the path I was going where I needed to eat a little bit less um, fat, not because there was anything wrong with fat, but I had to make some room for protein. So if you're drinking a bulletproof coffee, if you're putting cream in your coffee, um, stop doing that and have a meal instead. So, so if you need 90 grams of protein over the course of a day, that's 3 meals with 30 grams of protein in it. 30 grams of protein is 6 eggs, which is a lot of eggs, but it could also be 5 ounces of meat. It could be 3 ounces of meat and 2 eggs. So I would just prioritize figuring out how much meat you need to get the amount of protein to get to 30 grams. Then do that 3 times. Think about that 3 times a day. And it's really not that much. It would be literally like 5 ounces of chicken or 6 or so ounces of a higher fat meat, like chicken breast versus chicken thigh, or lean versus fatty, right? You're going to need more fatty cut because it's more percentage fat, right? So there's less room for the protein. But so that could look like it could be like a very low calorie day. So if you're like, hey, I'm not very hungry, then I would try and prioritize the protein first. So like for breakfast, that could be two chicken sausages and 2 eggs, right? Um, two chicken sausages, 2 eggs. Then you got for lunch a piece of chicken or a piece of steak. Like a 6 ounce. Hold on, I got to pull up my little tracker. A 6 ounce piece of skirt steak is 320 calories and 33 grams of protein. So 6 ounces of skirt steak, and 6 ounces of skirt steak is like that much steak. And like if you ate that 3 times a day, you'd only be getting less than 1,000 calories in a day, which is not enough calories for a human. So this is what I'm just saying. Like if you're struggling to be hungry enough to eat that much protein, if you start with the meat, so you're starting with a piece of skirt steak, a piece of chicken, a piece of some other type, a pork chop, right? And you get enough um, of that meat to get the 30 grams of protein, you're you'd probably need to add some fat or something else to that so that you're full, like that you're getting enough food. But you gotta, if you're too full to eat 30 grams of protein 3 times a day, you're not going to be eating anywhere near enough for a human adult. So start your planning with a piece of meat or eggs and meat or eggs. Figure out how much of that meat you need to eat 30 grams of protein, and then add on from there, right? So prioritize the protein, then add on from there. This is my advice for everybody. And I assume Nisha's advice as well. If she's trying to get you to eat 90 grams of protein in her ketovore challenge, then that's how I would do it. And I think she'd probably say the same thing. Figure out the protein part first, and then add butter, add more fat, to then fill in the gap so that you're getting enough overall food. By the way, I'm not saying only eat 5 or 6 ounces. I'm not saying cut it off there. I'm just saying that's how you get that minimal amount. Linda says, won't she gain weight eating more protein? Not if she doesn't overeat, period. Protein is the least of the 3 macros. Eating more protein is the least likely to add body fat. So there you go. And usually, like, here's what happens a lot, Linda. When you bump up protein, you're more satisfied, you're more satiated, you're less hungry. Then you might eat less overall. You might eat a little bit less fat. You might just find you snack less. You find you have less cravings, and you're actually netting less food overall than you were before. So Melinda G, what's the least calories a person should eat? It varies from person to person, Melinda. So I am 5'9". I have 120 pounds of muscle mass. Or not muscle mass. That would be great. I have 120 pounds of lean mass, which includes non-muscle. It includes bone and liquid and blood and hair and everything but fat, right? And so I have to feed that, right? That is part of the equation of how much I need to eat. But if somebody else on this stream might be 5 feet tall, and they might need, so they might only have 90 pounds of lean mass. Somebody else is super active all day, like they're on their feet and running all day, while somebody else is super sedentary. So minimal amount of calories is going to vary from person to person. There's really no magic number. But I will say that certainly you can give me a number and I'm going to be, that's too low for like almost everybody. And I don't know who it's enough for, but they're very small. So I would say, but then I would say there are also, like, I mean, if you're like somebody who fasts, right, you're eating 0 calories some days, which is nowhere near enough, but then it averages out, right? So it's not like nobody's going to hurt anybody unless they're like on the verge of death from being underweight, um, by under eating every once in a while. Like you got really busy, your day was crazy, you got stuck somewhere and you underate, like your body can handle that. So we're not delicate flowers. We're not ticking time bombs in that way. We can absolutely um, manage under eating every now and again. It's what we do most of the time that's the issue. And like there are going to be time periods, like if I'm trying to lose weight, I'm eating less than times I'm trying to maintain my weight, right? And so there are going to be times when I'm like, this is not enough food for me most of the time, but it will be enough for a few weeks, and then I'm going to come back up. I don't stay down there, because if you just eat too little for a very long period of time, your body adapts to that, and you don't want your body to adapt to that, because it will turn down your thermostat, and that's now your new normal, which you can overcome, but you have to work to overcome it. And so now, where your body used to maintain up here, now maintains down here. So, yeah. You don't want down here because that means you can't eat very much without gaining weight. You want up here. You want a higher metabolic rate. You don't want a high degree of metabolic adaptation. Metabolic adaptation is normal, but you want to make sure you're varying how you're eating so that you're optimizing for a better level of food intake. Congrats, Suzanne, on hitting your daily goal for protein. Larry says 20 ounces of ribeye and 3 large eggs. How much protein is that? Ribeye can vary, but a fatty ribeye is around 21 grams of protein for 4 ounces. So that would be four times five is 5 times 20. It's about 100, right? Yeah, about 100, give or take. So that meal is about 120 grams of protein, probably. Janelle says, I'm afraid I'm eating too much bacon, as bacon and eggs is my daily fast food. Is eating too much bacon unhealthy? So no would be my first answer. The second answer would be, what's working for one person is not, it's like we can vary. So I think you have to look at how is your body responding to the eating of the bacon. I don't think eating a couple slices of bacon or a handful of bacon every day is the worst thing that you can do. I think that in the scope of a very healthy diet overall, having some bacon in it is probably great. It's high in potassium. You gotta look at the what is unhealthy tends to be proven in the health of the person eating it, right? So if you're eating a lot of bacon and you're in better and better and better health, then bacon is part of your healthy lifestyle, is the way that I would look at it. Terry, thank you so much for the super chat. She has given me a gift. I appreciate it, Terry. Thank you for all I do. You've changed my life and taught me so much about about my own needs. You're a huge benefit to the keto community. Aw, that's so sweet. Thank you so much, Terry. Anyone who doesn't know who Terry is, Terry has a new YouTube channel, and you guys should follow her. She's started doing some videos. So if you don't follow Terry, she's lost 170 pounds. So everyone should follow Terry and me as well. But you're already following me. So follow Terry too. All right. Okay, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up for the day. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you again next week.